I have the honor this morning to welcome you as we gather to remember and celebrate the life of Grace Kim. Grace was a remarkable person and was important to each of you in so many different and special ways. She was such a treasured member of the Calimesa Church family. I just want to thank all of you for coming today with your love and your care and your respect. And though our main purpose today is to celebrate Grace's life, that's what she would want us to do, isn't it, today? This is also a time where we inevitably are going to be expressing sorrow because our dear friend has gone to her rest. We can't help but feel sad and hurt also. But I think it's worth remembering that the only way those feelings could have been avoided was if Grace had never been a part of our lives. In a way, sadness is a kind of privilege because it shows the measure of impact and love that we had from Grace. Along with our sadness, we are glad because of the fullness of life that she lived. We are glad for having known her, for the experiences we shared with her, the things she taught us, the blessings she gave us. And of course, we are glad that Grace loved Jesus. I'm not sure I ever saw anybody walk as closely with their Lord and Savior as I did, Grace. So we know that this rest is temporary. We're going to see her again soon. As we begin our service today, we especially think of those who are closest to Grace, so our thoughts and prayers are particularly with her family, her parents, Tony and Susie, her brother, Brian, her awesome boys, Noah and Christian, and her husband, Isaac. Please bow your heads with me as we pray. Lord, we gather today in your presence to celebrate the life of Grace. What an impact she's had on all of us. What an impact she's had for your kingdom, Lord. Oh, there's so much joy in our hearts because of the time we spent with her, the adventures we went on with her, the meals we shared, times we laughed, times we worked with her, worshiped with her, played music together, prayed together, did ministry alongside her. Today, our hearts will be filled with joy again as we remember those precious moments we had with her. But there's also so much sadness in our hearts today because of how we have to wait till resurrection morning to experience those things with her again. Yet we do take comfort in the assurance that we will experience those things with her again. In that blessed reunion in your kingdom, where sorrow and pain and cancer and tears will be no more. Again, Lord, we especially lift up Grace's family to you. Draw near to Tony and Susie and Brian and Isaac and Christian and Noah. Remind them, Lord, that you will never forsake them, that your powerful and peaceful presence is constantly with them. Thank you, Lord, for the gift of Grace's life and for the grace you have lavished on us so that we gather today in hope of seeing her again. Amen.
The songs that we're going to sing today were chosen by Grace. I'm sure that doesn't surprise you. I loved many things about Grace, and one of the things that I really appreciated about Grace was her intentionality with her relationship with Jesus. And I think she can inspire all of us to make sure we're not drifting in our relationship with Jesus, but be intentional in our relationship with Jesus. And she was intentional about her worship as well. And The last time I led worship in this church a couple of years ago, Grace was on the piano. And always a joy to play with her and to be in worship with her. And from everything from worship to Vacation Bible School. And she would do it for anybody, for the kids, for the elderly, and the in-between, because that's who she was. So I want to ask you, I want to encourage us today to worship with all of our hearts, as Grace would want us to. And so I'm going to invite you to stand, and we're going to sing this song, Great is Thy Faithfulness. Great is thy faithfulness, O God, my Father. There is no shadow of turning with thee. Thou changest not, thy compassions, they fail not. As thou hast been, thou forever will be. Great is thy faithfulness, great is thy faithfulness. Morning by morning, new mercies I see. All I have needed, thy hand hath provided. Great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto me. Summer and winter and springtime and harvest, sun, moon, and stars in their courses above, join with all nature in manifold witness to thy great faithfulness, mercy, and love. Great is thy faithfulness, great is thy faithfulness. Morning by morning, new mercies I see. All I have needed, thy hand hath provided. Great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto me. Pardon for sin and a peace that endureth, thine own dear presence to cheer and to guide, strength for today and bright hope for tomorrow, blessings all mine and 10,000 beside. Great is thy faithfulness, great is thy faithfulness. Morning by morning, new mercies I see. All I have needed, thy hand hath provided. Great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto. Great is thy faithfulness. Great is thy faithfulness. Great is thy faithfulness. Morning by morning, new mercies I see. All I have needed, thy hand hath provided. Great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto me. Please be seated.
Is that the favorite of anyone else here this morning? Grace selected the heart of the Christian confession. Grace Chu was born July 18, 1981 in Los Angeles, California, to Tony and Susie Chu. Her early childhood was spent in Koreatown, being raised by her grandparents, while her parents, they got their bearings in this country as immigrants in a new land. Grace and her younger brother, Brian, spent their elementary and high school years in Cupertino, California. She graduated from Monte Vista High School. Los Angeles and Koreatown were anchors in Grace's life. Once I complained about driving 30 minutes for a haircut, and Grace told me, "You need a Koreatown in your life." The girl was serious. Grace's college years unfolded up north at Pacific Union College. She extracted every possible experience out of her college years on that campus hill. Her leadership skills took shape in campus ministries and on mission trips. She eventually was the president of the student body at Pacific Union College. She managed to make a little time to earn a degree, Bachelor's of Science, and to study for the DAT test. Now, this is the professional summary of Grace's life at college. And Grace was a self-described spunky girl with a crazy side. So if we want to know the report on her real college life, we'll need to talk to some of her college friends. Some of you are likely here today. We imagine that you, alongside Grace, you squeezed every bit of sparkly, spectacular life out of college. These friends from Pacific Union College formed part of Grace's inner circle these last years. Loma Linda University School of Dentistry was next for Grace in 2003. Dental school friends are lifers, we know this, and this was true for Grace. Her classmates from dental school completed her inner circle these last years. As a dental student, Grace rolled up her sleeves again and again to serve in short and longer-term missions close to home and far, far away. Grace led her dental school class as class chaplain. Now, concerning the courtship and marriage of Grace and Isaac. Noah, Christian, your father gave me 3 sentences of notes to read. So I shall read them, and then we'll talk. It was during Grace's second year of dental school that she was introduced by mutual friends to Isaac Kim. It would be another year before they would start dating on June 17, 2007. Grace was married to Isaac at the Calimesa SDA Church. The end. Christian, Noah, you want to hear it? When it comes down to it, this is how it went, because the entire church was spying on your parents. So much so that one day your father called me and said, hypothetically, which means if we would imagine that I would want to take someone a date. Do you think it's okay for a pastor to go on a date? And what if I took her far away, like the other side of Los Angeles? Would that be okay? That's how it started. Once I asked your parents to describe how they met. And so I'm going to tell you what we said at their wedding, an abbreviation, a little he said, she said, okay? I asked your dad, tell me how you met. He said, I was doing young adult ministry. I was a pastor, and I invited Grace to get involved at the church. It's my job. She said, he called me to pray with me, checking to see how school was going. I thought that was so nice. He said, I admired Grace's leadership on campus, and I noticed she sings, so I invited her to come and lead Vespers here for the young adult worship. She says, my friends told me not everyone gets this many calls from Pastor Isaac. He says, yes, but If a girl sends you a text message and asks you if you want to go to supper, isn't that a date? She says, it was only a conversation, not a date. I invited him to a conversation. He says, but if she asks you to pick her up, isn't it a date? And it took off from there, guys. Their first date, one of their first dates, I think it's the first, was in the restaurant called Babylon in Riverside. The meal was full of fabulous conversation. A young adult pastor and a third-year dental student. Your mom talked about topics which matter in the real world, and your dad's eyes were wide open. She was keen and quick, and the conversation moved like currents in a river. And probably that night, your mom captured your dad's heart. Weeks of eating dinner and studying together and talking about important topics in the world. Your mom got your dad to watch documentaries and go to museums. It was while watching a Michael Davidson documentary that your dad put his arm around your mom and she said, "Oh my, this is more than a documentary." Pretty soon, we heard the word grace in staff meetings here at the church. And pretty soon, Grace joined us on a staff retreat. And then your dad called and said, so what if hypothetically, on a Sabbath afternoon, I take her to the Los Angeles Museum of Natural Science to do research on a creation and science Sabbath school lesson. And she turns the corner and finds a ring on display, and I propose. Wouldn't that be good? Your parents had a smashing wedding right here. And this church family waited 42 years to marry off a pastor. This church family did it all, the decorations and the planning and the music and the reception. It was a royal wedding, your parents' wedding. When I asked them both what they hoped for that day, your father said, "Don't preach at me." And your mother said, "Make it short, you have 5 minutes." Christian and Noah, I got lots more notes. Send me a message, we'll talk. Watching the courtship of Grace and Isaac was an adventure for this church family. This church is where Grace grew her literal family. Her first son, Christian Josiah, was born on February 12, 2010, and Noah Hudson, April 9, 2012. These boys were dedicated in this community of believers. While being a mom and a pastor's spouse and her own personal self, Grace also led worship and retreats. She helped at Sabbath schools. She volunteered at Mesa Grande Academy, and this happened alongside pursuing her dental degree and her own career, eventually taking a clinical position in what she considered a dream job at Redlands Family Dentistry with Dr. Trace Hoffer. Her specific areas of interest in dentistry were all the topics related to the airway. Speaking of grace, we all use similar language when we describe Grace. Have you noticed this? It's a clue that we met the real, genuine, authentic human God created her to be and intended for us to know. Tony and Susie, you named her well. Grace reminded us regularly that our lives are here to worship the one who created us. Before, during, and after, devastating diagnosis wreaks chaos in our lives. When you have God, you have everything you need. Grace taught us this. May we unpack all the grace lessons she gave us as long as we have life on this earth. Amen.
Breathe the air of heaven, where pain is gone and mercy fills the streets. To look upon one who bled to save me, and walk with him for all eternity. There will be a day when all will bow before him. There will be a day when death will be no more, standing face to face with he who died and rose again. Holy, holy is the Lord. And every prayer we prayed in desperation, the songs of faith we sang through doubt and fear, in the end we'll see that it was worth it when he returns to wipe away our tears. Oh, there will be a day when all will bow before him. There will be a day when death will be no more, standing face to face with he who died and rose again. Holy, holy is the Lord. And on that day we join the resurrection and stand beside the heroes of the faith. With one voice, 1,000 generations sing, worthy is the Lamb who was slain. And on that day we join the resurrection and stand beside the heroes of the faith. With one voice, 1,000 generations sing, worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Forever he shall reign. So let it be today. We shout the hymn of heaven with angels and the saints. We raise a mighty roar, glory to our God.
what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, baby, kiss me. Fill my heart with song. Let me sing forevermore. You are all I long for, all I worship and adore. In other words, please be true. In other words, I love you. Fill my heart with song. Let me sing forevermore. You are all I long for, all I worship and adore. In other words, please be true. In other words, in other words, I love you.
Good morning. My name is Kanji, and I met Grace at PUC. We became friends, fast friends, and I'm just going to touch a little bit about, give you a brief synopsis of our relationship. She was kind of like the older sister to me, even though, you know, she's a year younger than me, but she was always that protective, loving sister. And I remember when I got engaged and was dating my now husband, and she really didn't know him that well, and so she was being Grace, called him up, and said, "Hey, Kanji's my friend. If you hurt her, I'm coming after you." That was Grace. And what I want Christian and Noah to always remember about their mom is how much she really loved God and just how strong she was in her faith with God. Throughout all her pain, throughout everything she was going through, she never, ever turned her back on God, and she always gave glory to God. And that's what I want Christian and Noah for you guys to always remember about your mom.
Hi, Christian. Hi, Noah. Amy Emo here. Noah, did you know that I was there the second you were born? I don't know if you know that. Grace asked me to be her anesthesiologist for her C-section. I was post-call. I was so exhausted. And I said, 100% I'm going to be there. And so I got the anesthetic going, and I laid her back down, and your dad was there. And right when you were born, I said, "Is it still a boy?" "Yes, it is." It's a joke I always make, Noah. Don't worry. You were totally, totally normal in every way. But whenever a baby's born, I go, is it still a girl? You know, like the parents were planning. But you were, yes, indeed, a boy. It was so awesome to see you the second you were born. Grace's eyes always just shone, right? You guys remember that? Her eyes like sparkle anytime she talks about Christian and Noah. The second Christian and Noah, anything about them comes up, anything about basketball, her eyes start sparkling, not because she loves basketball, because the boys are absolutely obsessed with basketball, right? So Grace and I grew up together. I taught her how to swing in second grade. I think we were 7. And I remember meeting this girl who had just moved into town, into Northern Cal, and I said, you don't know how to swing? And I still remember looking at her, and I go, let's learn right now. So we sat in the playground, and the whole recess, I taught her how to like put your legs out and when to pump it, you know, back, and how to do that. And it took like a recess, but your mom's such a quick learner, so we learned pretty quick. But that was the moment I remember really meeting your mom and saying, she's so cool. And we became friends, and she became my lifelong friend since we were about 7 years old. You know, Grace and I were absolute dreamers. I don't know, for those of you guys who know Amy and Grace, on Sabbath afternoons, we'd be playing piano and just singing, making up music. As she got older, she got really into jazz. That last song that was playing, she would sing that, and she sounded almost maybe just as good as that singer. She started scatting. She just sounded amazing, and I was like wowed by her. Right? Here's me just singing and harmonizing. But that was like in high school. She was incredible. And we would just sing together, and after we were done singing, we would talk. And mostly, you know, we talked about what was going on in our lives, but we talked about what we were dreaming about. We were always talking about our dreams. As we grew older, you know, we spent summers apart, but we'd come back and talk all night and talk about our dreams, always about our future dreams. We go to Via Montalvo. There was a picture of Grace's family at Via Montalvo. Grace and I spent every Christmas Eve there exchanging presents and talking about our dreams. When we were kids and when we grew up, what we would do someday, what we would become someday, if we were gonna meet the love of our lives, which she did, and if she was gonna have children someday. And the biggest dream of all for her was always to be a mom. And she was such an incredible dentist, right guys? You guys have a lot of patients of hers are here. She was an incredible wife. She was an incredible friend. But most of all though, she was an incredible mother and daughter of Christ, right? And I just think she lived this short life, but wasn't it so incredible? And you know what's the most incredible is that Christian and Noah are here. You guys were seriously, without question in my mind, her dream come true. I love you, boys.
Hi, my name is Sarah. Grace and I first met at PUC. Thinking about it now, that was 20 years ago. I was a new junior transfer student, didn't know anybody, incredibly nervous about starting a new school. And Grace was a sophomore who I met because she lived on my hall. From the very beginning, she welcomed me with open arms. She helped me find the cafeteria, helped me find my classes. It made me feel so welcome. One Friday night during Vespers, a sign-up sheet was passed around asking the students if we wanted to pray with our teachers. So Grace and I signed up. And every week until we graduated, we met with Dr. Greg King. Dr. King, I don't know if you're listening now, but those weekly conversations where we talked about our careers, who we wanted to become, what kind of person we wanted to marry, all our fears and insecurities, and the advice and prayer we did together was such a beautiful time. And I know if Grace was here, she would say thank you to Dr. King. Those conversations were really effective because Grace and I chose the same career path. And a short time later, we were in the same class at dental school. Then what seemed like a short time after that, marriage came, and then children, and now here we are. When Isaac asked me to share something about Grace, the first thought that came to my mind is she has taught me so much, encouraged me to go skiing, love flowers, Dave and Austin roses, would talk endlessly to me about sleep apnea and airway, even though I am pediatrics, and I was not interested. Yeah, and she made me listen to all her sleep apnea, airway. We'd talk about traveling, eating different kinds of food, hiking, the beach. But one main thing that stands out to me, she taught me to be neat and organized. If you guys don't know Grace, she's neat. Norwex loving neat. Yeah, so a couple weeks ago, Grace was in the hospital, and not only did she have me wipe, and then wipe again, and then rearrange again, all her items. I loved it. I loved her analness. I remember one time we were on the beach, and we were talking about what kind of person we would like our children to marry. So Sujin and I said something like kind, loving. She said, my boys have to marry someone neat and clean. It's very important to her. So just Another thing Grace taught me was how to serve Jesus, no matter what circumstance you were in. When she was in the hospital this last time, it was difficult. I don't know, it seemed like the whole floor was short-staffed, couldn't find nurses to help. And there was this one nursing student or aide who was assigned to Grace's roommate. But that student kept coming over and checking on Grace, making sure her pillows are okay, and she was doing okay. He was so kind to her. And you know, Grace, she talks to everybody. She said, what's your name? Where are you from? And she got his name. And then when he left, she texted a friend and said, you need to hire this guy. This is the kind of person you want at Loma Linda Hospital. He's kind. He has the spirit of Jesus. The next day, that guy came over and came with a card and said, thank you. I got a job. And all Grace said in return was, do you know Jesus? If you don't, get to know him. Through her sickness, she always clung to her faith, never let go. Singing songs like, I'm in the Lord's army. Great is thy faithfulness. During the storms, over and over would sing, Jesus, Jesus, precious Jesus, how I trust you. She made me listen to that a couple times too. So what would Grace say if she was here? She would say, do you know Jesus? Do you trust him? Follow him and serve him. May we all live a little bit like Grace. May we all shine Jesus' light to others like she shined to so many of us. This would make her happy. Christian, Noah, Isaac, Grace's parents, Brian, we love you. We're here for you. Grace, rest well, my friend, with no more pain, no more hospital beds and beeping monitors, no more MPNST, until Jesus comes and we are reunited together in heaven. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Linda. Grace and I actually have a history of, we actually first met when we were probably 12 or 13 years old, became closer friends. We were roommates in college and, continued our friendship. And her name, Grace, she embodied that in every way, shape, and form. And I hate to admit it, but I was the friend that wronged her. And once I realized what I did was wrong, I actually reached out to another one of our friends and I said, do you think Grace would be willing to repair our friendship and become friends again? And she said, yes, of course. So I remember I wrote a letter to Grace, and I'll never forget it because Grace really showed me who God is, the loving, generous, kind, so forgiving, and so willing to accept each person for who he or she is. And that's something that I will never, ever forget. And the second thing that I want to share is with Grace is she's so completely fearless. Going back to when we first met, we were 12 or 13 years old, and a lot of kids will wear braces. Grace and I were one of those kids that had to wear neck gear, headgear. For those of you who don't know, it kind of looks like this weird medieval torture thing that kids wear. And for me, a lot of teenagers, at 13, I was so self-conscious
terrified of anybody seeing me in that. I never even left the house. Nobody even knew then that I had to wear neckgear. Then you turn to Grace, and this girl was running around outside in front of everybody, showing the world. And that's just when I realized, I was like, man, I wish I just had an ounce of her fearlessness. You know, she was so unafraid. She lived her best life. And so I want to share with you, Christian and Noah, I hope you realize, I think some of her fearlessness came from knowing that God was by her side all the time. So I hope you realize, because life can sometimes be hard, and you'll be afraid and be doubtful, but just remember that God is always with you, and you're a product of your mom, so you'll always have that fearlessness with you too.
Hi, Noah. Hi, Christian. Sujin here. I wasn't prepared to speak, but the Lord moved me to speak. She was my spontaneous, crazy, fun-loving partner in crime through dental school. She was the one who most of the time initiated it, just to clear the real air. But I always said, yeah, sure, why not? I met your mom in dental school. And I remember when I met her, I thought she was so cool that I wanted to have some kind of a connection with her. So my parents and actually Grace's parents were longtime friends. And so when I first met her in dental school, I said, hey, did you know that your parents and my parents are friends? And one time she said, Sujin, you told me that 3 times already. I just knew she was amazing. I'm just gonna keep this very simple. I wanna share one thing. During dental school, I was going through a time period when I was doubting God, the validity of this religion, God, Jesus, is this really real? And we've had many conversations about this. As you know, Grace always has a way of saying something that's very brief, concise, but very effective. After a long time of listening, because she's a great listener. Do you know what she said to me? She said, well, Sujin, then try living without God. And that was it for me. I could not fathom not having God's love in my life. And I've listened to many sermons by many preachers over the course of my life. And that phrase is what saved me. So Grace is that person to me. I want you to know, as you already know, Christian and Noah, Mama loves you. And she did such an amazing job with you. You guys make her proud. She laid all the foundations and all the love that you need to become the men that she would want you to be. But we emos here, which means aunties in Korean, we're here to guide you and love you as long as we can. So we love you very much. We're here for you. Thank you very much.
So I am Trace Hoffer. I need to set one thing straight, in that Grace didn't work for me, I worked for her. Also, to her parents, you named her so perfectly. I really only remember 3 terms from my English classes. That was a noun, verb, and an adjective. But she was all of those to me and to our office team, to everybody. But it's good to be here today. This is a really hard day, but a great day. Because any day that we could celebrate Grace Kim was a really great day. But I can't lie. I have been dreading the day that we would be getting together to talk and to share about our beloved Grace Kim, because she's not with us anymore. But what an honor to do so. What an honor it was to have known Grace. What an honor to have been able to work with her. And what an honor to have been inspired by such a warrior that did everything she did with a smile, with love, with the embetterment of others, and the serving of her Lord as her number one priority. Grace loved many things, and her career was no exception. She would tell you that she was a real doctor because she had chosen dentistry way back at an early age, I believe 2nd grade, which I think that you said 7. You see, dentistry is sometimes the recipient of jest, often being made fun of in conversation or comparison of other medical professions, or in movies like The Wild Hogs with Tim Allen, where his friends made sure that everyone knew that he was only a fake doctor. Or by Bill Cosby, who could, without even going to the dentist, put on a whole comedy routine as if his whole head had been anesthetized and his tongue no longer was working. You all know what I'm talking about. Grace would tease some of her friends that she was indeed a real doctor because she had wanted it for so long. She had not settled for dentistry. She had not taken it as a last resort, but she wanted it, and she really did. Grace attended Loma Linda School of Dentistry and graduated in 2007 with a fantastic class. She began practice in Redlands and practiced in the area for 7 years, often thinking of branching out and or starting her own practice or running an office. She was also thinking of doing more, being better, and serving more people. It was on a day in early January of 2014 that I and the team I work with and the patients that graced our doors got a lucky opportunity. Grace approached me right back in that foyer back there as we feverishly worked for Dr. Bob, taking down Christmas at Calimesa. Some of you know about that. Many of you know about that. She had heard through a very small grapevine that there was a possible opening at Redlands Family Dentistry coming available, and she let me know that if there was indeed this opening, she was very interested in joining our team. Well, what do you know? My longtime partner, Pam Emerson, had just let me know that New Year's Eve that she would be retiring, trying to slow down, and taking on things like church decorating and church building projects. Slowing down. This had just literally just happened. And it had made, and I had maybe started to pray to God that God would send the right person. Well, check that one off. God, sorry. I knew I would lose my place at some point here very quickly. I'll find it. God had worked that one out. Grace started in our office in February. What a great thing this was, except that I had to completely up my game if I was going to keep up with Dr. Kim. Luckily, Dr. Emerson had also trained me to try to keep up, so I was ready. She loved what she was doing. She loved learning. She loved on the entire team, some of which are probably here today. And she loved on her patients, many of which are also here today. I loved watching all of it, but you can imagine now why I had to up my game if I was going to keep a job in my own office. She was incredible at the way she interacted with everyone. I introduced her to Spirit Education out in Scottsdale, a large continuing education center where we often attended seminars and training courses from everything from team communication to implant surgery. She, you guessed it, loved it. And in fact, I had to up my game out there also because I think the people we worked with at Spirit Education started to like her better. Who wouldn't? She was amazing at everything she did. As a side note, I heard that Spirit Education lowered their flag last week in their courtyard after hearing of this loss. She was known throughout the professional world, in her dental world. In 2018, she started down a new educational road in dentistry regarding sleep and airway management. She herself had been having some breathing issues and had observed issues with her patients, and thus it was time for her to get educated. As usual, she went in at 110%, and as usual, I once again had to up my game to even keep her in my sights. She began implementing an entire sleep and airway treatment protocol into our office and immediately began treating and helping people. That is what Grace did, help people. It was during this year, 2018, that the tumors were discovered and the diagnosis of cancer was made. Grace worked through much of the year, even asking for the oxygen tank to be placed near her chair, not for her patients, but for her. But in December of that year, still working on patients, she left the office one afternoon and ended up in surgery just hours later, having those tumors that were impinging on her trachea removed. As you all know, it was a super hard surgery and many prayers were answered, and she fought through the pain, the treatment schedules, and all that goes along with time in the hospital. Sorry, lost it again. I can remember one evening in January that we had gotten a good snowstorm here in Southern California, and Grace had felt bad for missing out while she was in the hospital on the new snow. So we had packed up an ice chest of snowballs from the mountains and ended up that evening having a little snowball fight in her hospital room. It was epic. So was the cleanup. She was a warrior. In September of 2019, she returned to work with her team on a part-time basis, doing what she loved to do, see her patients. She tried oh so hard, and you would have never known that she was in pain or suffering of any kind. But in the beginning of November, she sat me down and tearfully explained that the tumors had returned and that she was no longer able to do what she loved to do. We both just cried. Grace was not ready to retire. She had so much to offer her patients and the team that she worked with, but she felt she could no longer do her job. This was such a hard decision for her. On November 7, she saw her last patient of her dental career. I will never forget leaving the office that day. We didn't want to leave. I think she knew in her head she may never be back. Grace loved like I have never known before. She loved her career, and she was a real doctor. She loved those who she worked with, and it was so obvious in the many things that she would do to let them know she was thinking about them. She loved her patients endlessly and would do anything, go anywhere, and provide anything she could to help others. So involved with them and their she loved her family and these incredible boys like no other. So involved with them and their activities and their dreams. She loved her husband and would be by his side through thick and thin. She loved you all and everyone she came into contact with. During her last visit to the hospital in a semi-paralysis state, she held up her hand to silence the conversation that was going on between her girlfriends, to take a moment to ask her roommate, who was in obvious discomfort, if there was anything that she could do to help her. And she loved her God. This was so evident in everything she did and thought of. While part of our office, she had all of the staff's kids coming to children's choir and to VBS. She made a point of inviting people to meet her Lord in whatever way she could. She lived to serve, and she lived to do the work her Lord had given her to do, to love people. Boys, Christian, Noah, I am so sorry that you have lost one of your biggest fans. She bragged endlessly about both of you, to us at the office, to her patients, to her friends. You are superstars to your mom and dad, and to me, and to all of us here. And I want you to know that your mom is also a superstar to me, and to everyone here you see today, and to many, many more. She is what my son calls a goat, greatest of all time. Grace, you have served us well. You have inspired each of us in so many ways. You are so appreciated, and you will be missed. But we are also glad that you are resting and out of pain. We all look forward to the second coming of Jesus, and now we look forward to it even more, because we will see you again. We will see you at the pearly gates with open arms. We will enjoy again your welcoming love, and we will meet our Savior with you. Goodbye, only for a short time, dear Grace.
Christian and Noah, does this look familiar? Maybe you remember in the beginning just telling your dad, I don't know if you know this, but there's some ladies just standing outside our house talking. Then later on knowing, well, must be Friday because the prayer warriors are here again. We want you to know that it has been an honor and a privilege to not only pray for your mom, but to pray for you, to pray for your dad, and to pray for your whole family too. We hope that by seeing us each Friday, you would be reminded that you were being lifted up to Jesus, not just on that day, but every day. And not just by our group, but by so many more people that love you. This is what we do as a part of your faith family, and this is what we will all continue to do. In 2019, Miss Laurel started the idea of coming together because where two or three are gathered together as his followers, he is there. And we desperately wanted God's presence to be known and felt by your family. You see, we believe his promises are true and that God watches over his word to accomplish it. We prayed that our words and the words of everyone praying would be near to God day and night, and that he would give you all the strength that you needed for that day. We prayed that a hedge of angels would surround your family and your home, so much so that you guys would glow in Yucaipa. And that our eyes and your eyes would be open to see God at work. We would stand in your driveway and often look at your mom's beautiful roses, and we will forever remember how much she loved pretty things and pretty flowers just like these. We know that your mom knew Jesus' love and his perfect peace when she was in nature. We prayed and continue to pray that he will keep you in perfect peace, and that he will guard your hearts and your minds in Jesus, and fill you with joy and peace as you trust in him, the way Jesus gave your mom joy, that radiated from deep in her heart. Standing outside, we would often talk about what was happening that week, and we were always inspired by your mom. We prayed that she would continue to be strengthened by his glorious power, and that she and you all would know how wide, how long, how high, and how deep God's love is for you. We are amazed by everything that your mom could do. And our mama hearts know and pray, like her mama heart prayed, that you would grow up in Jesus, to know him and to love him like she did, and to follow him always, and to know deep in your hearts that God is for you. He will not forsake you, and he will never leave you. Your mom inspired us with her love and her relationship with Jesus. She inspires each of us to want to know Jesus better and to share him with everyone we meet like she did. She showed us incredible strength in facing the difficult things and fully relying on Jesus. She was filled with the fruits of his Spirit and a desire that everyone who came in contact with her would know Jesus and the power of his resurrection. In our prayers, we would often thank God that she was sealed by Jesus and held firm in him, and has a home waiting with him in heaven. We are inspired to live and love Jesus the way your mom did so beautifully all of the time. And we are looking forward to the day when we will hear Jesus tell her, "Well done, my good and faithful servant." We love you.
It's been wonderful to hear so many stories and memories about Grace, and we want to take a moment to share some more at this time. Yeah, thank you, Mick, for coming down. We have a few microphones that we have available to walk around. If anyone would like to share, I would ask that you would please, as best you can, share your memory and your thoughts in as concise a way as you can, and we're going to take about 15 minutes to do this. I know that's not nearly enough time, but that's our goal today, to share some more. So I'll stop talking and open it up to the floor. Just raise your hand if you would like to share something.
I'm not good at this sort of thing, so bear with me. Grace and I had kind of a sisterhood where we felt like we loved so many of the same things: flowers, dentistry, good food, and we loved Jesus. And we loved our kids, our families, and truly, I just felt like I had a sister in Grace. And one of the funnest times we had was when she was sick. We would go for lunch. She would say, "I'm not feeling very well today." And I'd say, "That's the perfect time for us to go to lunch." And she'd say, "You're right." So we would dress all up and just, like, I'd come together at one time. I was like, "Ooh, who's the movie star in Grace's driveway? Who was visiting her?" And then I'd get there, and it would be Grace. And she would have felt, like she couldn't do it that day, and yet she would just be all dolled up, and she'd say, you know, I do feel better like this. So we would go and enjoy a beautiful lunch together and just be able to share time together. And I'm gonna miss that very much.
Sorry, a couple more things to say. So my understanding is that Grace loved snow skiing, and I love snow skiing. But Isaac, I understand, doesn't like snow skiing as well. So I'm committing in front of all of you, Noah, Christian, an icon pass on me, and we're going skiing.
And boys, if you know Uncle Trace, you know that means trouble.
Okay, I wasn't prepared to do this. I was one of, I called her Dr. Kim's patients for several years. And we just had the best connection. After a couple of times visiting with her and learning what a wonderful person she was, she never acted like she was in a hurry. She always sat and talked with me, and we talked about gardens and flowers. And I had rose bushes at home, so I always brought her little jars of roses each time I saw her. So I don't know Isaac and Christian and Noah, but you probably have several little vases of mine at your house. But anyway, just the most loving, wonderful person, dentist. My heart just aches for your family. And all I can say is, we always wonder why God takes the good ones, but I think maybe he just needed an extra angel up there in heaven. So I love you, Grace. Dr. Kim.
Hello. I was a patient of Grace's, a pastoral colleague of Isaac. We would talk basketball, the boys, because my son is a lot older than her boys. She would ask me about basketball camps and things that the boys could do or they could do with the boys in the summer. Grace is I'm grateful to have been her patient, to have known her, and to be able to have seen from a distance the impact her life has had on so many, and especially the impact her life has had on mine. And with that, I just pray God's strength for your family, for your boys, and for this church family as well.
Anybody else that would like to share a story, a memory? Okay. We've got a lot of repeaters today. It's awesome.
Trace brought up the skiing. So when Grace was very, very ill, she had had a really low time, and then she was like, I'm starting to feel better. And she really wanted Christian and Noah to be skiing. And so she had a patient, and she said, I'm going to have Christian and Noah, and I'm feeling good enough right now. I'm going to take them and go skiing. And I said, well, I want to go skiing with you. I love to ski, and we've been skiing a lot, and I want to go with you. And she said, okay, I'm going to have the boys ski one day, and if I still feel good, let's go the next day and take them on their own. And so the boys got a ski lesson, and they did amazing that day, and they were wiped out. They were like, oh my goodness, I don't know if I can go another day. And but they chose to, and so the next day we got up and we went skiing. And it was right when Grace was trying to decide about whether to go through chemo again. And she said, I feel so free and so good right now. She was the most amazing skier. And it was what her family had done every Christmas, I believe. And she just was skilled at it. And so the boys and her and I, we had the most amazing day and skiing. And she said, I just feel so free when I'm skiing because it just feels so good. And we're out in nature. It was the most incredible, beautiful day. And I know she really wanted to share that love and passion she had for skiing with the boys. And I too, I will enjoy taking you skiing because I just loved being with your mom and being on the slopes together. It was an incredible experience. And I think she really wanted that joy to be felt by you boys as well.
Thank you, Pam. I think we've got maybe 3 more here yet.
Hi, everyone. I'm Grace's younger brother. And we're talking about skiing, and I remember the first time my parents took me to Lake Tahoe. We went to Heavenly, and we think we had like one lesson, but they made us go down a black diamond. And like my sister's friends were saying, she's fearless. She was probably one of the best skiers that I knew. And I'm 5 years younger and very competitive, and I wanted to be like her. I also went to dental school. But yeah, my sister was very loving. And thank you all for coming today. I know that you guys all meant so much to her. That's it.
Maybe some of you know, but I was one of Grace Chu's professors and instructors at the School of Dentistry. I knew Grace as Grace Chu, the dental student, and I also knew Grace as Grace Kim, the practicing dentist, the friend, the alumnus, and what should I say, a living example of maybe I had some contribution to where Grace Kim ended up as a practicing dentist. Grace was as enthusiastic as a dental student, as loving and caring and open and willing to help in any way that she could, as Grace was as Grace Kim, the dentist, the faculty member, the friend, the alumnus, and the devoted mother and wife that she was and still is. It was a privilege for me to know Grace, and by knowing Grace, I also had the opportunity to know Isaac as well. Grace is an example of what we all, and I certainly would like to be and like to become. She is an example of Christ living in us.
So, on behalf of Dr. Kim's team, we just want to say that she was one of the best doctors I think we can all agree we've ever worked with. When Dr. Emerson left our office, we were devastated, and we never thought anyone could fill her shoes. And we were very nervous about who Dr. Hoffer was going to bring into our office. And we're so blessed, I learned that word from Dr. Kim, that she was the one that he picked for us, because every day that she worked with us was a true blessing. Always in a good mood, never put you down, always tried to educate us every day. And I know even sometimes we'd be doing exams or working with patients, and she'd be going on and on about the airway. And I know even me, I still have to polish this patient, or my next patient's already here. But man, what I wouldn't give just to hear that airway speech, just one more time, because she was so passionate about it. And we all have a million stories with Dr. Kim at work, just so fun, so encouraging. And she's going to be very, very missed by all of us. And we love her very much.
My name is Joey Kang. I first met Grace probably early on in high school, but I never really got to spend, the circles never really overlapped, and I never really got to know her that well until recently. I had the privilege of being one of her treating physicians here at Loma Linda. And we've had multiple conversations since then, and being a cancer doctor, sometimes it's easy to become jaded, as many times with all our knowledge and science and technical advances, many times things don't work the way we would like it to work. And this most recent time when she came in, she, just things weren't working. Our medicine wasn't working, and she was just in a lot of pain. I think, over time I've become a little jaded, but I just started praying. I was gonna do our radiation treatment. I knew it was a long shot for it to do anything. There's a chance that it could help with the pain, but I was just praying for God to take that away and take the pain away. And God really, we started the treatment. We did one treatment, and the pain went away. And this really had nothing to do with our medicine or the radiation or anything like that. I think it really is just God answering prayer, because nothing else was really working, and He was answering everything from. I remember we did the radiation simulation, and we were trying to wheel her back up to the room, and she was just in so much pain, and I just remember thinking, I got to run over and push the elevator door button, because I don't know if you've been in Loma Linda, sometimes it takes a long time to wait just for the elevator to come and open. And I prayed, I'll just let this be fast. She's in so much pain. We need to get her up to her room as fast as possible. And radiation department's down in the basement, so we're almost always waiting for the elevator. And I remember just running in front and coming around the corner, and the elevator door was open, and just waiting for us. And we were able to get her up to the room, and I think I just wanted to share that I think God was there, even at the end, and Grace, she was at peace, even when everything said she should not be. And I think only knowing Jesus and knowing that He was in control allowed for that, and I was able to see that, and I had the privilege of seeing that, and I just thought I'd share that with everybody.
Thank you. I think we have a few more, but we're gonna then we'll have those two more very quickly, and then Grace's mom, Susie, will give the last one. So briefly in the back, and then here, and then Grace's mom.
So I went to high school with Grace. We were friends, me and Young and Grace, and we would hang out together. But the memory that I want to share of Grace is she was our class president, and I want to share how she became the class president. She ran against the most popular girl in school, a girl that had been our class president since like 8th grade. And so everybody just thought she would be the class president, but to run for president, you have to give a speech in front of 400 bored restless teenagers, and that's not an easy thing to do. But the popular girl, she gave her speech, everybody was laughing, and then Grace came up, and nobody really knew who Grace was at that time. And her speech, she started singing, and the whole auditorium went quiet, and everybody was just really in awe of her talent. And the next day, she won class president, and she was our class president. And to this day, I call it the greatest high school election upset of all time. And it just shows how fearless she was. And it's a memory that I just wanted to share with everyone else here.
Christian, Noah, I think all three of us have something really in common. I think we all three love Stephen Curry. And Stephen Curry, for those of you who don't know, is arguably one of the best shooters in NBA history, and maybe one of the most transformative NBA players of all time. So it's no question why we love Stephen Curry. And I can say right now that Stephen Curry has spent a lot of time building up treasures in the NBA. He's been, shooting trophies and MVPs and championships, and he's storing those treasures in the NBA. And when I was your guys' age, man, all I wanted to be was Steph Curry, the best. But as I've grown up and I've matured a little bit and gotten to experience Grace, I realized that maybe she wasn't storing treasures in the NBA, she wasn't competing for MVPs or championships or anything like that, but every day of her life, it seemed like she was storing treasures in heaven. And now, I don't want to be like Steph Curry, but I want to be just like your mom. So she was a blessing to you guys. She's a blessing to us. She was amazing.
저희 사랑하는 딸 은혜가 얼마 전에 병원에 마지막으로 입원해서 저하고 이야기를 나누는데
Just a short time ago, my beloved daughter and I had a chance to speak with each other.
엄마, 우리가 이 땅에 사는 목적은 하나님의 말씀을 증거하는 거라고 말을 해줬습니다.
She said, Mom, our purpose in life is to let other people know of God's love.
그러면서 나는 이제 발부터 마비가 와서 걸어다니면서 예수님 증거할 수가 없어서 이제 엄마 나는 시간이 없어.
She said, because I have paralysis, I can't physically walk around to share God's love. I don't have that much more time.
나는 방문객들을 안 받을 거야.
I'm not going to take any more visitors.
이 소중한 시간에 그 사람들하고 이야기할 시간이 없어.
During this precious time, I don't have the physical energy to speak with the visitors.
잠깐이라도 그 널스들하고 예수님 말씀을 증거하고 싶어서 간호원들, 중국계 간호원, 한국계 간호원하고 예수님에 대한 이야기를 해서 서로 메시지를 주고받고 중국계 간호원하고 또 한국 간호원하고도 마지막까지 예수님의 말씀을 증거하는 그런 모습을 제가 보았습니다.
Instead, I want to save my energy to speak with the nurses that may not necessarily be believers and spend that time professing God's love to the hospice nurses.
저희 사랑하는 딸이 그렇게 한 가지 또 생각나는 거는 하이스쿨 때 카얌 코리안 그 프로그램 카얌 미션 스쿨 아니 미션 그 프로그램에 참석해서 필리핀에 갔다 온 적이 있어요.
And one more thing that I want to mention is that during high school, she joined CAIAM, which is a mission program for the Korean American youth, something. And she had a chance to go to the Philippines.
그때 갔다 와서 굉장히 그 자기가 많은 걸 믿음으로 배웠다 그러면서 엄마 내가 혼자서 아침 일찍 그 제일 가서 제일 알지? 가서 그 감옥에 있는 사람들한테 예수님 말씀을 증거했다 그러더라고요.
And she said early in the morning in the Philippines, she would visit the local jail and evangelize to the inmates.
그래 그때부터 얘가 미션 그 열정이 있어갖고 많은 나라들을 다니면서 또 미션을 하면서 자기 자신이 더 이렇게 하나님 앞에 가까이 하게 되었고 또 이 칼리메사 교회에 다니면서 많은 분들한테 자기가 믿음을 배웠다 그러더라고요.
That was the start of her love and passion for missions. And throughout her life, she was able to visit many countries and do what she absolutely loved to do. And joining this church, she said that she had learned so much from all of you guys.
제가 딸을 먼저 보내고 마음이 많이 아프지만 저희 사랑하는 딸은 저희 딸이 그랬어요. 엄마 너무 슬퍼하지 마. 내가 예수님을 더 먼저 만날 거라고 저를 위로했습니다.
She said, Grace's mom is heartbroken that she had to have her daughter pass away before. But Grace's mom, Grace had told her mom that don't be so sad. That 다시 한 번만 얘기해 주세요.
예수님을 먼저 만날 거라고.
That she will see Jesus Christ first.
저의 딸의 믿음을 제가 본받아서 저도 열심히 믿음 가운데서 살려고 합니다.
I learned from my daughter's faith, and it has inspired me to be more faithful and love God more.
그리고 이 자리에 많은 분들이 오시고 싶어 했어요.
And many people wanted to be here, many more people.
그런데 코로나 바이러스 때문에 우리가 양해를 구하고 그분들께 유튜브에서 이 시간에 같이 추모해 달라고 저희들이 양해를 구했는데 여러분들 너무 감사하고요. 유튜브를 통해서 또 이 자리에 오신 모든 우리 딸을 추모하기 위해서 오신 여러분들께 너무너무 감사를 드립니다.
And because of COVID, we are broadcasting this on YouTube, and I just wanted to thank you guys all for being here to commemorate and celebrate my daughter's life.
저희 딸이 아픈 동안에 칼리메사 교우 여러분들과 또 저희 딸의 친구들 또 우리 정말 미국과 한국에 있는 각 교회에서 많은 분들이 저희 딸의 회복을 위해서 기도해 주신 것을 너무너무 감사를 드립니다.
I am just so thankful that throughout Grace's battle with cancer, that many churches across the ocean, even in Korea, many churches across the U.S. had prayed for my daughter, and I really appreciate all of your prayers.
저희 사랑하는 딸이 그 많은 사랑을 받고 예수님 때문에 그 많은 사랑을 받고 갔기 때문에 저희들은 더욱 앞으로 용기와 힘을 가지고 저희 가족, 우리 아들, 제 남편, 저 또 우리 성민이, 노아, 아이상 모두가 더 열심히 믿음 가운데서 굳세게 살 것을 저희들이 마음 결심했습니다. 감사합니다.
Even though it's been very difficult, my husband, my son, Christian, Noah, and Isaac, we have all decided to live more in faith and to live courageously, just like how Grace would have wanted us to.
감사합니다.
Thank you so much for being here.
Well, a very, very sincere thank you to everyone who has been a part of this service, those who have helped plan it, bring it together, those working the technology, everybody who shared, and all of us who are attending, whether in person or watching online, as we celebrate Grace's life. And it has been a good celebration, has it not? Yeah. Isaac asked if I could read a few words written by him, Christian, and Noah. On behalf of Grace's entire family, thank you for being present both here and online to celebrate her life. It's easy to define the last 2.5 years of her life by her diagnosis and her fight against cancer. But we choose to define the last 2.5 years by her choice to live with purpose, to live to make memories and experiences for her boys, and most importantly, to live to be a witness to those around her of the hope that we have because of God's amazing love for all people. She embraced the motto that time is measured in minutes, life is measured in moments. And by this standard, she had a full life of love, joy, and hope. We are here today to celebrate her life because we have an eternal hope that cannot be quenched. It was important for Grace to have her service here at the Calimesa Church because this is home, and each one of you are a part of our family. We can never repay the love and compassion you've shown our family, but we will honor you all and Grace by the way we move forward, loving God and loving people. Love to you all, Isaac, Christian, and Noah. Well, it goes without saying, but the strength that each of you have shown over these past 3 years is nothing short of inspirational. In fact, it gives us strength as well. And we want to make it clear that our support as your community doesn't stop here. Our care continues. Our availability continues. Our prayers continue. And if you ever need anything from us, we love you and we are here for you. In 2019, following Grace's diagnosis, she asked if I would be willing to help write a synopsis of her story to share online. Obviously, I was honored at the request, and we made an appointment to meet in my office to talk about what she'd been through and how to communicate both delicately and genuinely the journey that she had been on to the outside world. I knew this wouldn't be easy, but if Grace could do it, I could do it. And when the day of our meeting came, I arrived early to my office to prepare. I tidied things up, I lowered the lights, I put out Kleenex, and I presented my best pastor face. And then there was a knock at my door, and I opened it. Hey, Aaron! Hi, Grace. How are you? Is this some kind of a joke? I wasn't prepared for this, but I stayed the course. I'm well, Grace. How are you? Me? Oh, I'm good. I'm really good. And then she looked up. Why are the lights so dim? I'll tell Isaac to fix that. And I slowly began to realize that this pastoral appointment was not going to be a lament. It was simply going to be a conversation with my friend Grace. And through the next hour and a half, we talked, we shared stories, and oh, we laughed. We laughed a lot. I got to hear about her upcoming travels and the challenges of her and Isaac dieting together. I listened as she beautifully framed the journey she'd been on and the one that she was still facing. And I got to experience somebody who looked a terrible diagnosis right in the face and did not flinch. And her faith and courage were palpable that day. And I realized by the end, I had been comforted by her. And that felt so backwards. I even apologized to her for it. I said, I was supposed to be the pastor in this situation, but I don't really feel like it. And she just gave that gentle grace smile. And she said that we had comforted each other. And that day, Grace taught me what she taught so many of us here. And it wasn't that we shouldn't feel sad. Of course we can feel sad because we miss her. And we may even be hit by unsuspecting waves of grief as we do. And in those moments, I hope those waves become tears that we aren't ashamed to shed, because something Grace also liked to tell us was that it's okay to not be okay. But Grace also taught us that though we may be sad, our sadness does not get exclusive rights. But that joy and hope and love and laughter can coexist at the same time, too. And Grace exemplified this throughout her journey, from conversations and phone calls to social media posts and church retreat testimonies. Grace also kept us updated through her Caring Bridge site. And it wasn't uncommon for me to read one of her updates and find myself smiling. And sometimes find myself grieving. But most of the time, both. And I'd like to share a few excerpts from those posts and highlight how they always centered on three things. And they've been mentioned here several times today. The first, of course, is her community. In March of 2020, Grace wrote, "We are blessed to be in a community that thinks of others. Thank you to many of you who texted us to see if we needed groceries or just to check in. Your prayers give me continual strength, and we are grateful for the numerous ways God uses his people to share his kindness during these gloomy days." A few of the many ways Grace felt her community surround her were through meals, cards, flowers, organizing activities or hikes or scavenger hunts or GoFundMe pages, and of course, a group of women who shut up to pray in their driveway every Friday morning for the past year and a half. Grace also wrote, "You all have testified that God's love is greater and his plan is better than anything I can imagine." In another post, Grace tapped into a different community of hers, the dental community. I had no idea how tight-knit the dental community is. And yes, you are real doctors. But in this post, she didn't just tap into the dental community, she particularly focused on any potential patients who were reading. In June, she mentioned how she now had more time to brush her teeth in the morning. And she wrote, "I know this isn't a dental blog, but due to the acidity in your mouth, it's good to wait 15 to 30 minutes after breakfast to brush your teeth to neutralize the acids. If you are going to brush after anything acidic, please use Pro Enamel toothpaste to protect your enamel." Y'all got that? And if you need a cleaning and don't have a home for your teeth yet, Redlands Family Dentistry is a wonderful place to go. And of course, Grace often mentioned her Calimesa church community. She would still tune in to every Sabbath and often link sermons or songs that inspired her. In the first 2 years, Dr. Bob asked her to speak for the annual church retreat. She actually told him no 2 times, another testament to her great strength. But this year, she happily said yes, and she shared her testimony on May 15. And it was there she said these words. She said, "You, Calimesa Church, have represented Jesus' love abundantly, not only to me, but to my whole family. I believe my story is a love story between me, you, and Jesus." She shared that following her first surgery, one church member brought decorations to brighten up her hospital room. Another brought shampoo to wash her hair. And another, who I was going to leave anonymous, but they gave up themselves, brought snowballs from the mountain so she could feel the spirit of Christmas. And Grace gave this testimony during a time when she usually experienced pain and shortness of breath after speaking for even short periods of time. And yet that day, she spoke for 20 minutes straight, almost exclusively pain-free. It's one example of many of her receiving strength from this church family. The second unmistakable focus of Grace's journal posts have been her family. From her parents' care, to her brother's help, to her superhero sister-in-law, as she would call it, and many more, Grace was always surrounded and supported by family. Last September, Grace journaled, "Isaac is my rock. He is always willing to do anything for me. I can lean on him for support anytime. I told him that what I really appreciate about him is that he doesn't treat me like a terminal cancer patient. He treats me the same as before, and when I need extra help, he is right there for me. I am so thankful." Grace and Isaac met in 2004, 3 years after Isaac had begun serving here at the Calimesa Church. And due to his role here and his ministry involvement on campus at Loma Linda University, they didn't go on a date anywhere locally for 6 months. The odds of running into an Adventist were just too high, which I agree, because it's a 100%. Instead, they would go on dates to places like Orange County, Los Angeles, San Diego, which goes against the standard dating advice, which is set the bar low and go from there. But Isaac knew that Grace was worth it, and so they kept things quiet at first. And I have to share with you all that this experience of theirs actually proved beneficial to my life several years later, when my wife Paige and I, Paige grew up in this church, we were trying to get to know each other, quietly at first. And it was going fine until one Sabbath afternoon when we were at the home of the Jongs where I was living, and we turned a corner and came face to face with the Kims, who just so happened to be visiting that afternoon. And we froze. And there was this awkward silence, everybody figuring out what's going on right now, until Christian piped up, "Why?" And then Grace stepped in, and she knew what to do. "Hello, Pastor Aaron. Hello, Paige. Happy Sabbath." Now, this was news to her as well, but she got it. She had our backs. And Isaac later told me that when they left, Christian still hadn't forgotten, because he's Christian. And as soon as they were out the door, he asked, "Okay, so why was Paige there with Pastor Aaron?" And they just said, "He mentors the youth, honey. It's his job." In 2007, Isaac and Grace got married here in this very sanctuary. And it was a beautiful day. I've heard that it was packed. It was a celebration, a day that they have always cherished. And it was on that day that Isaac made a vow to Grace that he would take her to be his wife, to have and to hold her from that day forward, for better or worse, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health. And Isaac has kept to every one of those vows every single day. But of course, the light of Grace's life, as has been mentioned, were her 2 sons. She wrote in December of 2019, "I cannot quantify my desire to spend time with my boys. Right now, time is the most valued commodity to me, and my heart yearns for every minute with them." There were many things that she loved doing with her sons. Grace was a musician, and she taught them both to play the piano. She wasn't a big sports fan at first, but boy, did she learn. She learned to love the boys' teams. She watched the games. She wore the jerseys. She signed them up for sports camps. And by the way, they're both great athletes, if you haven't seen. And we can thank her for that as well, not only for her genes, but she also helped coach their basketball team 2 years ago. She loved playing games together with them, whether it was Legos, different toys, or possibly their favorite board game, Egypt to Canaan. Although the last time they played, the boys discovered something new. Mom knew how to shoot rubber bands, and they didn't. And so they put the game on hold so that she could teach them. Only they needed a target. Grace quietly signaled to the boys someone on their sofa who was wearing jeans and taking a nap. "They're in jeans," she said quietly. "It won't hurt." And the boys tried several times until Noah started laughing so hard it woke Isaac up and he moved upstairs. She was a reader, like Christian, and she was a cuddler, like Noah. Noah also enjoys gardening, which is not a gift he got from his mom, but instead it became a gift that he gave to her, picking Noah's tea from his planted herb garden every morning to make a warm cup for Grace that would help her breathing. Christian also inherited his mom's servant heart, choosing to empty her Foley bag every day, helping out in different ways. Christian and Noah, I know a lot of people have spoken directly to you today, and if you don't mind, I'd just like to do that as well and let you know that you have inherited so many wonderful qualities of your mom. And that's a really special thing, you guys, because it means that you get to share your mom with the world just by being who you are. And even people who never got to meet your mom, they get to meet her in a way by meeting you. Because your mom is not defined by being sick, right? No, your mom is defined by being strong, by being fun, by being happy. And you guys are all of those things as well. And your mom is also defined in the way that she would define herself, by being your mom. And that's how we will always remember her. And remember that lesson that your mom taught me over there in my office. And that is that even as you miss her, you can still be happy. That's what she wanted more than anything. That's what gave her the strength to go on trips and to go through treatment, because your happiness was your mom's favorite thing in the world, and every moment that she could share in it was her favorite moment. But even those days when you don't feel that happiness, I want to let you know that it's totally okay to feel the sadness instead. It takes a strong man to have the courage to cry. And all of us here are here to support you in any way you need, whether that's to laugh, whether that's to shoot some hoops, whether that's to remember, or just be sad together. But thank you for showing us your mom every day by just being who you are. There is one more thing that Grace's journal entries were defined by, and of course, that is her faith. In February, Grace wrote, "Every time I see a beautiful, intricate rose or a breathtaking sunset, I cannot help but stop to acknowledge our Almighty Creator is present and by our side, Though this journey is not easy, especially when the side effects are harsh, it is because of Jesus that I can stay positive and put a smile on my face. Something I think all of us were continually in awe of and still are is the resolve of Grace's faith and trust in Jesus. Even during the most difficult portion of her treatment, when she had to stay mostly in bed, Grace found a way to make it meaningful. She actually called it her honeymoon with God, because she could spend quality one-on-one time with Jesus like never before. I had the opportunity to spend some time in Grace's Bible this week. And looking through its pages, I got to witness the relationship that she held with these words. And I would love to share many of the things that I got to see, but I just want to share three brief things that stood out to me looking through this book. The first was inserted in a sleeve on the front. It's a copy of a worship talk that Grace gave as a second-year dental student. That's over 15 years ago, but she held on to it. And in the talk, she begins by saying, this is the first thing she starts with. And no homiletics class that I took said this is the way to start, but this is how she did it. She says, "For the record, I am Korean, not Chinese, because my last name is Chu. Everywhere I travel, people think I'm a local. Even this past summer when I was in Jamaica, some locals thought I was Jamaican." And I think that speaks to Grace's incredible ability to make everybody feel like they're family with her. And in this talk, she then shares about a time she was in Hawaii and wanted to learn to surf. But the waves were large, so she decided it'd just be easier to boogie board near the shore. But after a while, she got bored. We know Grace liked some adventure. She was not one to back down, and so she thought, what if I just go out a little bit deeper? And then a little bit deeper, and maybe a little bit deeper. And as you can imagine, doing that on a boogie board, surfing these big Hawaiian waves, it didn't go particularly well. And she gets hit by a wave, she loses the board, she's sent straight to the ocean floor, and for a moment she feels she might be in real danger. And Grace struggled and fought, but the ocean was too strong. And so she decided in that moment, I'm just going to stop and surrender. The waves will carry me, and I won't fight it. And before long, she found herself back on the sand. And Grace concluded her worship talk speaking on the importance of surrendering to God. And then she said this, like the water, God is always waiting to bring me back to the shore. The second thing I noticed, or I should say that I enjoyed, was reading through the Psalms with Grace's notes as my guide. And of the 150 Psalms, just 2 of them had every verse underlined. The first is Psalm 121. I lift my eyes to the hills. From where will my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, who made heaven and earth. He will not let your foot be moved. He who keeps you will not slumber. He who keeps Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is your keeper. The Lord is your shade at your right hand. The sun shall not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord will keep you from all evil. He will keep your life. The Lord will keep your going out and your coming in from this time on and forevermore. And written beside the passage in bright pink pen are the words, He's ever over me. And the second psalm that was underlined from beginning to end was Psalm 23. And I invite you to say it with me if you know it. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me down paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For you are with me, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. And of course, I went to look at Grace's favorite passage, Philippians 4, verses 4 through 7. Christian and Noah, you guys know this one well. Grace highlighted it in yellow, and it reads, "Rejoice in the Lord always. Again I will say, rejoice. Let your gentleness be known to everyone. The Lord is near. Do not worry about anything, but in everything by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God." And then verse 7 is underlined. "And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." And so even as we face loss and we don't have understanding, Grace reminds us we can still have peace. In fact, within that text are the themes of joy and gentleness and prayer and peace, a passage written perfectly for Grace. And so today, we may mourn, but as we do, I can't help but find myself back in that office, sitting across from her body sick, but her courage strong, offering that gentle smile, as if to let me know, as if to let all of us know, that while we miss her dearly, it's still okay to laugh, to smile. It's still okay to celebrate, because that's what being with Grace does. And that's what thinking of Grace does. And so we do not only mourn. Today, we rejoice. And again I say, rejoice. We rejoice because we have known her. We rejoice because we have been impacted by her. And we rejoice because we will always carry her with us. And we rejoice because before long, soon and very soon, we will reunite with Grace for the next chapter of her life and for the next chapter of ours, when we will all join together on that great day to sing, to dance, to smile, to laugh, to play Egypt to Canaan, to play Legos, to shoot hoops, and to hang out with Jesus. And I cannot wait for that day.
As we prepare to sing this last song that Grace has chosen for us to sing together, I want to say to Noah and Christian, some of the pictures I love most of you guys together is seeing you guys all in your Atlanta garb and sports stuff. And there's a picture, I think you're wearing the Atlanta Braves stuff, and your mom has an Oreo cookie like in her mouth or something. She's like, ah. And I love that playfulness of hers. And, her birthday was the day before mine. And so we would wish each other happy birthday. And you guys will appreciate her sense of humor, as I know she's serious and she likes cleanliness, but her sense of humor is also brings a lot of joy. She said to me, "Happy birthday." And she said, it makes sense that you have a birthday in July. This was way back when she found out my birthday was in July. She says, "It makes sense because you are musical and so smart, like the other birthday people in July." I loved her sense of humor as well. And I want to say to you boys as well, and he may not be happy with me saying this, but Isaac, I'm going to say it. In this world, we need more godly men. And Christian and Noah, you don't need to look very far because he's sitting right next to you. And he has showed us. And Isaac, I know this is not about you, but I also want to acknowledge you have showed us what it looks like to love our wives like Christ loves the church. And so, thank you. Let's sing together, shall we? How great is our God. Sing with me, how great is our God. And all will see how great is our God. Let's sing that again. How great is our God. Sing with me, how great is our God. And all will see how great is our God. The splendor of a king, clothed in majesty, let all the earth rejoice, all the earth rejoice. He wraps himself in light, and darkness tries to hide, and trembles at his voice, trembles at his voice. How great is our God. Sing with me, how great is our God. And all will see how great is our God. How great is our God. Sing with me, how great is our God. And all will sing how great is our God. Age to age he stands, and age to age he stands, and time is in his hands, beginning and the end, beginning and the end. The Godhead three in one, Father, Spirit, Son, Lion and the Lamb, Lion and the Lamb. How great is our God. Sing with me, how great is our God. And all will see how great is our God. And how great is our God. Sing with me, how great is our God. And all will see how great is our God. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great is our God. Sing with me, how great is our God. And all will see how great is our God. One last time. How great is our God. Sing with me, how great is our God. And all will see how great is our God. Amen. Please be seated. We have a real treat for us here because our benediction is going to be by Grace herself. It's a song that she pre-recorded, I guess it was shown at a worship service here in Calimesa. And it was a song of appreciation that she sang. And so, you know, the word benediction actually means blessing. It doesn't mean closing prayer, it means a blessing. And so may we, through grace, experience the grace of God upon us as God blesses us through grace as we prepare to leave this place.
Dear church family, thank you so much for your support and prayer. Out of my thankfulness during this short period of time in between chemo treatments, when I can have the opportunity to sing and play the piano again, I want to share the song called The Blessing. During my health journey, the greatest blessing has been to have God's presence with me, His peace and love overflowing to comfort me, and when in dark times, His face illuminating to provide for my every need. And that's what this song is about. Lord bless you and keep you, make His face shine upon you and be gracious to you. Lord turn His face towards you and give you peace. Shine upon you and be gracious to you. Lord, turn His face towards you and give you peace. Amen. 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 Upon you and 1,000 generations, and your family and your children and their children and their children. May His favor be upon you and 1,000 generations, and your family and your children and their children and their children. May His presence go before you and behind you and beside you, all around you and within you. He is with you, He is with you in the morning, in the evening, in your coming and your going, in your weeping and your rejoicing. He is for you, 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 He is for you. Amen. 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 Amen.
Amen. The family would like to invite you to the reception over in our fireside room building across the parking lot. There's some seating indoors and outdoors. But we'd like to ask for you to stay here during the beautiful postlude that Mike will play for us so that the family can make their way over there first. And the family does want to get a chance to greet with you and talk with you over there. Thank you so much again for coming today. We also wanted to let you know that if you would like to have a moment to have some special prayer for Grace's family, our prayer room is open, and Pastor Viana will be in there. Kathy McMillan, our head elder, will be in there. And if you'd like to just have a moment before going to the reception to have some special prayer together for them, we have that opportunity for you. Otherwise, you can make your way over to the reception area. Thank you again for coming.